Welcome back, everybody. It is time for you guys to eat your vegetables and learn just what the hell is going on in politics and what's been shaping the news. On today's show, I will be joined by my esteemed famed guest, TJ of Power is Taken, Not Given from TikTok, one of the hottest TikToks on TikTok, to discuss several crazy events that have been going on in politics. The Politics of Being Black in America, Lamont Tyson Show. Ladies and gentlemen, we are kicking off right now.
I'm up early for the dealers come out. Everybody is outside till the killers come out. You ain't eating, you just act full. I'm impactful. Dozen funerals in a month. I got that pull. I will give it to niggas in all rap forms. Ignatius out right now on all platforms.
There he is, ladies and gentlemen. It's the big home TJ.
What's going on, man? How you been? Uh-oh. You see your Wi-Fi is getting a little blurry there. I don't know if you got a Wi-Fi connection or a wired one, but looks like it's buffering or something. Can you hear me, Lamont? No problem. Well, folks, Oh, there we go.
Yeah. Finally,
Perfect.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah.
Right,
How you doing, man? How you been?
I'm glad to see you here, my brother, because it's been nuts. America has been nuts the last 2 weeks, man. How about yourself?
Yeah, I can't remember if we've discussed it on the show before, but things seem to get progressively worse, it seems. I don't know, every week. And I think this has gone back to, I feel like before Trump's election, maybe slightly before, but back in the day, like in the early 2000s, even the early 2010s, we all kind of assumed everything was on an upward trajectory. Things would just get better and better, and we've regressed. And every time I watch the news, I do see why people check out of politics. First, because most people aren't terribly well versed in it. It's kind of boring. It's confusing. But man, if you're a regular, normal person, just watch the news like, wow, the world is just falling apart. It's hard to stay motivated at times. So I get it. Yeah.
I agree. And I think that what you're saying holds true even more for those who don't understand politics, civics, and how the government works. I think for a lot of the people that sat on their hands that didn't show up to the election, this is just making them like, I don't want to touch politics. But my brother, that's what the administration wants.
Yes.
That's what they want. And it's up to people like us to do the best we can to keep those people engaged and to not let them check out. And that's why I've been putting together this superhero Avengers team of great TikTokers and YouTubers to talk this shit. And you was the first one that decided to sign on the dotted line to help out. And for that, ladies and gentlemen, I will be in this man's debt the rest of his life. By the way, he's a veteran, so I don't want to hear none of that bull jive of thank you for your service. If you're going to take this man, send him something to his Cash App, damn it.
There you
go. I told y'all how I feel about that. Thank him properly, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
So,
you can. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Do your thing, bro.
That's something that you can tell which professions people actually take seriously, and those are the ones that are financially compensated. Those are the ones that people actually respect. The ones that they don't particularly respect but pretend to, they just say, wow, you're a hero. Everyone goes out of their way to tell teachers that they're heroes because they know teachers do something important but don't get paid a lot, or service members, oh, you're a hero because the pay isn't super high and everything. But yeah, like one form of appreciation is actually worth something and the other one isn't. So yeah.
And ladies and gentlemen, to that point that TJ made and said so eloquently, and I hate to say to a black person, man, you speak well. Well, damn it, I'm gonna say TJ speaks well as a human being. He speaks well as a human being.
Have you run across this where you try to find a way to say it? Because I've heard this my entire life and everything, because there's a way it's said where you're like, okay, hold on, this seems like microaggression-y or condescending. It's like, wow, this one can talk. And then there's ones where it's a legitimate compliment. And usually you can tell just by the tone of voice or something, but I will grant that it is kind of difficult to say that without appearing to be, condescending or dismissive.
So what I do is what I do. I'll say it the way I just said it to you, or I'll just keep it as very well said.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Or I'll take the moment to break the stereotype and make it funny, like what I just did with you.
Yes,
like,
yeah.
Everybody knows I think you're well spoken, and it's not because you're fucking black. You're just well spoken. You just happen to be black on top of being able to speak very well. So that's how I do it, my brother. Get the point across.
Yeah,
so, ladies and gentlemen, I can't wait to hear what this man has brought to the table today. Did y'all see his stack of stuff? He came to the table, a stack of stuff like Rush Limbaugh. Man got papers.
Oh, you know what? I wish that were the case. These are actually all blank. These are all blank pages, and I have stuff on the screen or tabs or whatever. Okay. I actually don't have anything written down here, but whenever I do these shows, I realized over a year ago, I'll have an idea. Like you'll be talking and say you talk for 45 seconds, a minute and a half or whatever. At the 20-second mark, you'll say something, ooh, I should comment on that. And I lie to myself that I'm going to remember it. And a minute later, I never do. So I always have to jot it down. I'll come back to that. So that's what the blank papers are for, to write down notes that I have that I think during the show.
Wow, ladies and gentlemen, this is a very astute Negro. Very astute. So TJ, I've got we get ready to get into the show. Again, I'm very thankful for TJ, and I'm thankful for the audience members that basically told me, Mont, stick with the politics on your channel. Don't let these people talk you out of it. So gratitude to you guys that have been following me for those years. I've been involved in politics, stocks, and all that. You won't let me get out of it. We're going to start this show. TJ, I've got about 5 different stories. I don't want to cover all of them, but I'll name them to you and see which ones are more important to you, and we'll cover those. But before we go there, of course, we've got to get into politicking while being black in Trump's America. My brother, what is your petty grievance of the day while having to live under Trump's America while being black?
Well, most of mine happen just with discussing politics, and particularly with black-centered politics or black-adjacent politics. And this one, I can't say this is necessarily a byproduct of the Trump administration, because it's something that I've run across long before. I'm sure you've run across this several times. When you're discussing the reality that American slavery is the root cause of many of the challenges that black people face today. I was having a conversation with someone, and sure enough, as like clockwork, they brought up the fact, oh, well, that Africans sold other Africans into slavery, right? You know this, right? And whenever I hear that, I always wonder, what do they expect our response to be when they say that? I mean, are they legitimately thinking that we're going to say, oh, wow, I didn't know that. I guess slavery is not so bad after all. Like, what's the point that you think you're trying to make here? I never really, honestly, I have no clue what they expect to be said. And of course, my response is always like, yes, African warlords did practice slavery. That's not news to me. But I'm not living under their government, am I? I'm not. I'm sorry. You want me to complain to them? And there's no West African nation anywhere in existence that is politically descended from those warlords, right? My complaint is with the United States government, how it treated black people for hundreds of years, and how they're still benefiting from the slavery and punish the people who actually did all the work. There's no parallel for me to complain. If you can show me one, fine, you can complain about that, but it would help if you lived there, and then you could say, hey, this government owes something for that. But it's a strange reflexive reaction that people have when you point out something that's honestly incontrovertible. Slavery is bad. That they have this instinct to deflect away from the fact that, because they don't want to argue whether slavery was good or bad. I don't know. It's a strange thing. I'm sure you've run across this.
Well, that's the foundation of it, my brother. They want to deflect from what you were exactly talking about because, like you just said, it's irrefutable. There's no arguing against it.
Yeah.
And in order to try to buffer themselves in a position where they can control the narrative again, they'll throw it's basically whataboutism in a different form. Okay, so the West African sold slaves. Oh, we're not living in West Africa, Mother Esther. We don't live in West Africa, and this is not 1458.
Yeah.
Even Africa is not doing slaves anymore. As a matter of fact, we are one of the only nations that never gave reparations to their freed slaves. They did it in the Jamaican Islands. They did it in Europe. They've done it pretty much everywhere except for America. And then another one of those things that they'll do, my brother, is when you talk. We talked about this last week, and I feel like we're having to give lessons on history and deflection.
True.
When we talk about who helped us get civil rights, you know that them MFers is quick to say, "Oh, well, Martin Luther King was a Republican." Okay,
that's funny. That's funny. He wasn't. That's funny. They do say this a lot. They love to say Martin Luther King was a Republican, and they say it so often that people believe it. They say, "Oh yeah, he was." Martin Luther King never registered for a single political party in his entire life. His registration doesn't exist. And toward the end of his life, he did publicly speak. There's actually a quote where he talks about the Republican Party, and he says that, the way things are shaping out, it's turning. What I predict is that the Republican Party is going to become the white man's party. This party, and he talks about the Republican National Convention in 1964, and he says that he saw the Republican Party wed itself to white supremacy and the KKK at the Cow Palace. That was the building where they had the Republican National Convention in 1964. So even if he were a registered Republican, which once again he was not, absolutely not, he openly said the Republican Party is looking pretty damn racist to me, right before he died. So yeah, they try that shit a lot. It's nonsense.
Thank you. It's pure nonsense. Like I said, me and TJ, with us, you're going to get history lessons. You're going to get for why, and you're going to get a healthy dose of why what we say in truth doesn't just benefit us, it benefits the blanket swath of most Americans in this country. Because even though we're talking about things that stem from marginalized groups, the overall policies we're looking for actually help even the very stupid people that vote against their own goods. That's what we're trying to help everybody. And so, TJ, my pay grievance is going to be kind of one of the things I want to discuss today. And that is the Republican Party and their base being so dumb that the Republican Party co-ops words and phrases that mean something else for the Black community, and they are able to get their dummies to believe it's a pejorative. Let me give you some examples. DEI. DEI stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. What world would that be bad in?
Yeah, it would be bad. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, my bad.
Please, go ahead.
Okay, let me give you the list first, then you can rebuttal. You can rebuttal my politics. So you got that one. Here's another one that they've corrupted, and this one is brand new. Well, it's not brand new to us because we know what the real definition is, but you've seen the propaganda apparatus for the GOP push this Black fatigue. They're pushing that hard now, Black fatigue. And then another one, so I don't ruin my entire list that we'll kind of cover later on, is Black Lives Matters. Things that are meant to be a positive, the Republican Party's base is so brain numb that they fall and succumb to the Republican Party's, making it seem like those things are bad. So that's what I'm politicking on today, TJ. What say you, my brother?
Well, I was going to say that while you mentioned that, I added a few to my list too on this because they are pros at this. Woke is one that they love using over and over again as a pejorative. And woke has always meant is basically what it sounds like. People who are aware of of cultural and systemic discrimination towards any marginalized group. And, we should be aware of this. Don't be asleep to what's going on. Affirmative action became a pejorative too. That affirmative action ironically started by a Republican. This is actually kind of weird because it actually goes back to what you mentioned.
Thank you. So, see, y'all see why I picked this brother? He knows history. I would damn near say better than me. Because, go ahead, brother. Go ahead,
so it harkens back to what Lamont was mentioning earlier, that Republicans will take the fact that it was the Republican Party that Lincoln ran under and the Republican Party that passed the post-Civil War amendments, and that Republicans did overall have a higher percentage of people voting for the Civil Rights Act, although the number of Republicans is actually pretty small. This is funny how they try to claim credit for this first because the president was a Democrat. It was Lyndon Johnson. It was a Democratic administration that pushed for this. And the Senate, at least, in the Senate, I can't remember how many senators voted for the Civil Rights Act, but all the senators who opposed it were Democrats. That's true. And I think every Republican did vote for it. However, that wasn't enough to win. It was the majority of senators who voted for the Civil Rights Act were Democrats. It was something like 40 Democrats voted for the Civil Rights Act. Maybe 25 Republicans voted for it. So the dividing line wasn't necessarily Republican and Democrat when it came to civil rights. It was North and South. All the Southern senators were Democrats and they all voted against it. All the Democrats in the North voted for it. So they try to take credit, although that's not really the case. You said DEI. Political correctness was one. Political correctness was just a common phrase for this, and then it became pejorative. CRT was one they used a few years ago. That became a rallying cry for anger and hatred. And outside of race specifically, Me Too. Me Too has become a pejorative. And even the word liberal. Rush Limbaugh essentially made the word liberal a bad word. That I remember during... whose ministry? I think it was Bush's second administration. Someone would accuse me and say, "Oh, well, you're just being a liberal." And I say, "Well, yeah. Oh, look, you admitted it. You admitted it. You're a liberal." It was so ingrained to people that liberal was a bad word that they just kind of rolled with it. But the conservative movement. Well, we need you guys to understand more than anything that the conservative movement, certainly dating back to the civil rights era. You can honestly dating back to the Civil War, but in modern times, the Civil Rights era, it is a fundamentally anti-Black movement. There are other issues that conservatives have, like being anti-Black is not the only one, but it is fundamental to the movement. It's probably the most important one. And a lot of conservatives don't even realize it because they don't think about the shit a lot. But that's what the movement's based on. It's based on being as antagonistic towards Black people as possible. And to validate this, think about issues that are very important to the Black community, going back 60 years, where you'd have a lot of support from the Black community, like 70, 80% support. How often do conservatives join hand in hand with Black people for that? Almost never. Almost never happens. And so I think it's really important to keep that in mind when you're talking about this.
Absolutely. Well said, my brother. And ladies and gentlemen, we would love for you to post what you are politicking on today, any petty grievances that you have. TJ's link to his channel and his TikTok is in the video description. Please check that out. And for all my Black nerds out there, someone pulled me to the side the other day and was like, "Where can I get a t-shirt?" It is, ladies and gentlemen. There it is. Back in my day, we had 9 planets. The link is in the description, shoplifegains.com. And we are now going to get
justice for Pluto.
Show. But let me, yes, poor Pluto. It's like it's an icy body now. It's not even Poe planet. Are we going to make t-shirts for that too? Justice for Pluto.
Justice for Pluto.
Pluto lives matters.
Pluto abandoned by its family, left in the cold.
Right. So, TJ, let me give you some stories I've got, man. And
Let's go.
You kind of tell me what you like out of this list. So I've got MAGA. This is right up your alley. Okay. You're gonna love this one.
All right.
Religious MAGA male molesters.
Oh.
Okay. Got that. We've got the subject of Black fatigue and other phrases and terms that the Republican Party corrupts. So we've got that. We've also got Kristi Noem and the Department of Homeland Security want to do a damn reality TV show of getting citizenship in America. I mean, I could just vomit. And last but not least, my brother, Trump blames Walmart prices for deflecting to say that Walmart in their latest earnings said that because of tariffs, prices are going to have to go up. And Trump is mad with them. He tweeted out a Truth Social and said that it's Walmart's fault. And I've got so many questions. I've got so many statements of hypocrisy versus the traditional Republican.
Refresh my memory, America.
That you're mad with Trump because he wants socialism when it comes to, he wants Walmart to pay for the damn tariffs so that you don't have to. But when Democrats have always said we need more of that to leverage this runaway wealth inequality, y'all told us we was bad. So TJ, tell me which two from my list you want, and then let's go to your list.
Oh boy, so these are all too good. I want to do.
Well, we can do them all. If you got the time,
I really do. These are all fantastic.
Yeah.
I think the first one we should go with is black fatigue, since it's already something we were just discussing with them using phrases indiscriminately. So yeah, let's go with that one.
All right. Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, be sure to subscribe to my channel. Be sure to go check out the podcast where you'll find TJ. Link is in the description for the podcast. It's called The Politics of Being Black in America, anywhere you get podcasts. His link for his TikTok is in the video description. Great show, highly entertaining, just as well as it is truthful and educational. Check that man out. So this week, in the last 2 weeks, TJ, ever since the Shiloh Hendricks situation came out, a term that Black people have used for a very long time to talk about our plight in dealing with the oppression we deal with in America has been called Black fatigue. Well, since Shiloh, white people have been trying to corrupt the word and make it theirs. I talked to a couple of TikTokers that hit me up, and here's a great TikToker who made a video about it, and then we'll talk about it, TJ. Let's take a look.
The term Black fatigue is currently trending right now during Mental Health Awareness Month. And I find Black people on my FYP having to fight back against racist rhetoric and having to define what Black fatigue actually is during Mental Health Awareness Month. Because a white person wanted to co-opt the term and use it to push racist rhetoric in defense of another white person who was calling a 5-year-old Black child the N-word multiple times.
And TJ, to lead in with that story, I went and pulled this list of kind of what we just talked about. Other phrases white conservatives have corrupted and demonized from Black culture and progressive movements. And brother, ladies and gentlemen, I promise you, TJ did not see my list. Did you, TJ?
No, I didn't. No, not at all. Yeah, this is great.
So look at this. We're not going to discuss them all. We're going to focus on the Black fatigue one, but look at this. DEI, Black fatigue, woke, CRT, restorative justice, safe space, affirmative action, systemic racism, cultural appropriations, code switching, microaggressions, reparations, and Black Lives Matters. For those of you that are watching this channel, that you know good and damn well you're wrong, here's the list. And for those that sat on your hands, you might want to screenshot this so that you can fully understand what the real definition of these things are. And here's what they're talking about with Black fatigue. Black fatigue is a phrase meant to describe the mental and emotional toll of racism, co-opted to suggest white people are tired of hearing about race. TJ, you get first dibs at this one. When you hear the way white people have started trying to corrupt the word, what has it invoked in you in terms of thought and the way you approach your conversations and debates when it comes to policy?
Well, my first thought when running across this was how people mention the fact that slavery was America's original sin. People like to refer to it a lot of times, and how, like, reading the formation of the United States as a a singular entity as a country back in the late 1700s. Slavery was the primary issue that they fought over. That the Constitution is essentially at a series of backslaps and handshakes and tenuous agreements trying to get the southern states to come on board because they refused to give up on the issue of slavery. The founders knew that slavery was a contradiction. What's interesting, if you read the Constitution, you will never find the word slave or the word slavery. It's not there in the original Constitution, not there at all. What they will do is they refer to, like, the Three-Fifths Compromise. I think we went over that last episode, the episode before, that they will say free persons are described as such and such, but for individuals who are something other than free, they will be counted as 3/5 for representation, because they knew that the entire document about all men being created equal and the rights and stuff doesn't make sense if you have the word slavery in there. They were embarrassed by it. And the Europeans called them out. There was a quote, I think it was Alexis de Tocqueville, mentioning that he found it ironic that the people who cried about freedom the most the loudest cries about freedom come from the drivers of Negroes, is what he said. They said, yeah, okay, what are you guys talking about here? And ever since then, honestly, white Americans have refused to have an honest conversation about slavery or about race, actually, about race. And what all this points to me, with the deflection from the terms or the flipping things over, or constantly saying, oh, I'm worried about what I say, Black people have had it way too good for way too long, is the concept of race, for those of you wondering, is a new concept in human history. The concept of race as we know it only goes back a couple of hundred years, like about 400 years or so. And really, in the United States and in Western culture in general, there are multiple races, but there's really only two. There's Black and there's white. And I don't mean that in a way to dismiss other races. What I'm saying is that for white to exist, Black has to exist. And there's always a pathway to whiteness for other races. There always is. There was a time when certain Europeans weren't considered white. Native Americans, they tried to put them into certain schools to make them more white adjacent. Other races will Hispanic. A lot of Hispanic people are actually white. Middle Eastern. A lot of folks will always be granted some sort of pathway to whiteness. To, okay, we're acceptable enough. That will never happen for us. They will never happen. And that is something that is what drives this forward, is that they know they need to keep this racial dichotomy. White needs to exist and Black needs to exist, but Black can never come to prominence at the level of white. Like that social superiority is very important to them. And it plays out in a lot of ways like this, where, hey, why don't I just complain about them and try to put them down as much as I can?
Well said. I want to shout out the brothers and sisters in the white community that help us, that understand what we're going through, that support this, that are not uneducated and fall for the banana in the tailpipe every time these type of subjects come up. When I heard these different echo chambers for the right co-opting this word, I just thought more of the same, because I used to listen to talk radio, like I said, back in the Rush Limbaugh days. Yep. And as you said, they were co-opting words back then. And when I first got into politics, my jaw dropped to the floor, because, TJ, I could not believe that people were so uneducated that they fell for this. That's like, you'll hear me refer to the people that fall for this more than you'll hear me refer to the people that push the propaganda. Because you're never going to make someone who's profiting off of doing wrong change their behavior until the people who they are pushing it on changes their behavior and forgets about them. So you're going to always hear me attack the MAGA and the voters that do wrong because they're not educated enough. And for me, I just thought it was just more of the same. These people are so susceptible to anything that they say that they don't have the intellectual curiosity to just look shit up. And the ones, and I think sometimes, TJ, they don't want to look it up because they're too afraid that their bias is going to be wrong. So they don't want to look it up. They want to leave it at the feet of whoever their favorite right-wing pundit is and just run with it and not know how stupid they look and not realize that their day is coming, TJ. I know they don't want to hear it, and me and you will be alive to see it, but the day is coming when they're not going to be the majority. And the closer we get to that day, we're just seeing an amping up of this type of bull jive. But when you come here, ladies and gentlemen, you get the real definition of what's going on. And we hope to those that sat on their hands that you've seen just how vile and vicious this stuff can get, and that you will take advantage of getting the thought process together to get out here and vote so that we don't have to deal with this as much as we're dealing with it now. Black fatigue means the struggle Black people have been through dealing with a system of suppression and racism that has come and go in waves, has fought us tooth and nail since slavery. And just when we think that we're making gains, it comes right back and slap us in the face. That's what it was.
It's true. It's true.
Please let us know what you guys think. Leave us a comment, subscribe to my channel, subscribe to TJ, links in the description. If you want that My 9 Planets and I Lost One t-shirt, shoplifegains.com in the video description. What you got for me, TJ? What's the stories on your list? What you got for me today?
Well, I wanted to cover the Trump thing too. Since you
Which one? It's like many Trump things.
So I wanted to talk about. See, what did you say? You had the Trump Walmart thing. That's the one you had. I wanted to discuss Donald Trump and his Air Force One situation. Did you see that?
Lord have mercy. Yes, man. Lord. Set the narrative for me, my brother. Throw me the look, let me be Shaq today and you be Kobe. Throw me the
All right. So for those of you wondering what we're discussing here, Donald Trump has been talking with the Qatari government. Qatar is a Gulf nation and a very wealthy one, a small Gulf nation, very wealthy one. One that no one is quite sure how to pronounce, by the way. I find that kind of funny that people say Qatar, they say Qatar, they say Qatar. And I actually saw something last week about this that I don't think there actually is a correct way to say it in English. Like it doesn't translate over very well. There's not easily enough people to say. Well, anyway, Trump has been touring a lot of Gulf states, and he spoke with Qatar, who has offered him a $400 million plane to replace Air Force One. And what Trump says, this is actually something that he talked about during his first term. He complained about the fact that Air Force One is now a 40-year-old plane, which isn't all that odd. That is on the later end of it, but most of the planes you guys fly in are 25 to 40 years old. They have a long service life. But Trump is saying that I want to replace this old plane. Boeing is taking too long to make a new one. So instead of having the U.S. taxpayers buy a plane from Boeing, I'm just going to use this one that Qatar gives me for free. Now, that's already legally shaky. No one gives you a $400 million private jet for nothing, right? There's always going to be some exchange there. But it gets worse than that because Trump is saying that, yes, I'm going to use this. Boeing should be done with their plane in a couple of years. When Boeing is done, we're still going to buy that plane. But I'm going to send this plane that Qatar is donating to the United States government to the Donald Trump Presidential Library. That way it's waiting for him when he gets out of office, essentially announcing to everyone that this plane is an obvious bribe to one person, Donald J. Trump. And what was interesting to me is that there were, of course, most of the MAGA folks said, awesome, this is great. Trump deserves the plane. No bribery here. I'm sure this is all on the up and up. There's no chance there's any quid pro quo going on here. But there were a few Republicans, conservatives. Ben Shapiro was one. Who else? Mark Levin, I heard say something. And they said, listen, this is an
Mike
obvious
Wallace
bribe.
too. Are you familiar with Mike? Mike Wallace jumped in.
Yeah, and they said that, okay, this is obviously some shady stuff going on. But what they said was interesting to me because they didn't stop there. That's all they had to say, at least the ones I heard. But the ones I heard added, well, we can't trust the Qataris. They're a terror sponsoring government. You can't trust these Middle Easterns. They immediately went to racism. Like they could have just said that this is obviously a bribe or whatever. But I noticed with them all that they had to add on. And by the way, they're anti-Israel and they are dangerous to society. And it's like, okay, so if France had given Trump a $400 million, you'd be fine with that? No, like the problem is the bribery. But they couldn't stick with that. They had to say, we got to be worried about Qatar because, brown people and everything. What did you think when you heard about it?
On top of everything you said about, so when I first heard about it, I hadn't had the opportunity to hear the Republicans come out with it. We even had a couple of Republican senators that thumbed it down and was upset about it. And one or two of those senators they actually said the right thing, but it kind of made me wish you should be saying these things about what's going on in America. And so when I first heard it, the first thing I said was Trump's transactional. You remember the nickname I gave him? Transparent, transactional Trump. Rears its ugly head again. The triple T, and I'm not talking about Michael Jackson's nephew's 3T. This is triple T Trump. I said to myself, here he goes again. And I thought to myself, this violates the Emoluments Clause. It's a conflict of interest. It undermines sovereignty. TJ, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know, is a veteran. He went to war for this country. You're undermining the work that people like TJ have done. The optics are bad. And then I thought about what you're doing, Trump, is opening the door for more people to follow you, thinking that they can use foreign influence to sugarcoat and get things done. And I also said to myself, how does this look for the America First agenda? Because literally, TJ, he wants Boeing, who is an American company, to make this plane, but he's complaining that it's taking too long, so he's going to take it from Qatar.
Yeah,
I said it like that to be funny. Like, I know how to pronounce it, but I said it like that to be funny. And you're so worried about that, about the security issues that could come with plane. Do you really think a nation that really and truly hates us, they don't care about us? Not one bit. Like, do you really think they're going to make something where they don't bug it a little bit? And as incompetent as your administration is, it would not surprise me one bit if they can get a bug through your security. Look who's leading headsets. This nigga done got 3 or 4 times on Signal. So you really think that they could get something? You really think that it's impossible for them to get something through? Absolutely not, TJ. Those were some of the thoughts that went through my brain initially. And then when I heard the Shapiros and the senators come out, I kind of thought like what you said. A lot of what they're doing is not defending this because of everything I just said that makes it wrong. It was more of these brown people. And then Senator Rand Paul came out and said, why are we fraternizing with a group of people that for the longest time we didn't like because of terrorist activity and their human rights issues? Well, TJ, that made me drop my jaw because I'm glad that you're speaking up about what Trump is doing is wrong, but you didn't condemn it and tell him he shouldn't do it. And then when you bring up the human rights going on over there, what the fuck you think is going on here right now?
Right
now, today. Floor is back to you, TJ, my brother.
Whenever it is almost always a canard whenever you hear a United States government official making a big deal about human rights violations. Now, it's not always a canard. And honestly, when they mention human rights violations in other nations, it's not even always a lie. I would say most of the time they're correct, that there actually are human rights violations. But folks, the United States government, human rights violations rank pretty low on our priority list. Shockingly low. I look at all the votes for the UN. Whenever there's a vote to make food a human right, the United States always votes against it. Always. Every time.
Look, yes. And this goes across multiple presidents.
Yeah. We are very selective in our outrage about human rights violations. We had no problem with Saddam Hussein's human rights violations when we were backing him. When he was our ally, totally cool with it. The second we turned against him, folks, did you hear about the human rights violations? We got to put a stop to this. You can track this all throughout U.S. history. Same was true with Osama bin Laden, with our backing of the Mujahideen in the 1980s because they were an anti-Soviet group. And then when we looked, okay, wow, we got to go after bin Laden now. Muammar Gaddafi. Muammar Gaddafi was another person who we helped to secure power. Once we turned against them, we're like, all right, he's got to go. This happens over and over and over again. So, yeah, the thing with them going after Trump Qatar for the human rights violations, also kind of shady. I wanted to show this clip here. I got with this guy. What's this guy's name? Alfred. And he's talking about Donald Trump. And most of the time, fuck, I'll shut up. I'll share the video. Hold on. Let me get the SEO on here.
Take your time.
All right, cool. Here we go.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen.
Ready?
Yep.
Regarding this planned gift from the Qatari government to the president, this luxury jet worth hundreds of millions of dollars. You laugh. I do wonder whether you think this is ethical.
I'm not laughing.
Well, you were chuckling. I wonder if you think it's ethical for President Trump to accept it.
Well, I'm chuckling, I guess, because I think the media is making a much bigger deal out of this than it needs to be. Look, have you been to the Reagan Library in California? There's the old Air Force One sitting there in the Reagan Museum. That's what's going to happen to this gift, not to President Trump, but the Department of Defense. This will go through the ethical checks and the legal checks to make sure it is everything's in order before it happens. But I know that, look, President Trump is frustrated that he's flying around in this 40-year-old plane. He has wanted a new Air Force One. He's tried to work with Boeing to make it happen. For whatever reasons, it's not happened. I mean, my goodness, the president in his first term wanted to change the paint scheme from the dark blue, light blue, white to red, white, and blue to make it look more patriotic, and they wouldn't let him do it. He's going to get his way on this. It's going to be painted red, white, and blue. The president of the United States, Donald J. Trump, will be flying on this new plane unless the courts intervene. And I don't think that's going to happen because I think what he's doing is perfectly legal. This is a gift to the
Would you be
Department
saying
of
the same
Defense.
thing?
It's not.
All right. I'll stop right there. What I wanted to point out, there was two things. Is that number one, he mentions that the Ronald Reagan Library also has Reagan's Air Force One. That's true. However, Ronald Reagan left office in 1989, and Reagan's plane didn't show up until, I think, 2002. So it's a little bit different, I think, than Donald Trump just taking the plane with him when he leaves. And one thing he said there that I can't stress enough because it's evocative of Trump's entire legacy. Two times, maybe three, he mentioned Trump wanted to paint Air Force One red, white, and blue, and they wouldn't let him. He's going to do it. He's going to be flying around. It's going to be red, white, and blue for America. It's all showing. It's all show, no tell, style, no substance, which is honestly how Trump got into power and why his folks like him, because he puts on the accoutrement and the affectation of, I'm an American. Look, I say, God bless America. I paint the plane red, white, and blue. It's like a cartoon version character of what the United States president should be. And there's no importance, no substance to it. And I want to add one thing real quick before I toss it back to you, Lamont, is that there's a comment over here from Mio Martinez saying, let's slow this down. I've seen TJ's veteran work. Man was one Snickers away from being the next Chelsea Manning. Martinez is a friend of mine from the Army when I was in. And back in the day, we would tease each other about trying to sneak food all the time. So thank you for watching, Martinez. I appreciate it.
Appreciate you, Martinez, and everybody that's in here on a Saturday to really focus in on politics. We're very, very grateful to have you. And TJ, what you just mentioned about them wanting to drape themselves in the fucking American flag and wrap the flag around their penis.
Yeah.
and like you said, and all the accoutrements. I sometimes feel like the Republican Party has co-opted and made some Americans want to turn their back on that, because when you see an American flag flying out in the public, you're not thinking that that's someone who's for the betterment of all the country. You're thinking that that's some MAGA person. You don't think that that's someone who might have served in the military that really cares about everybody in the country. You're thinking that that's some MAGA again. And it bothers me when
Yes.
people try to tell you what they are rather than show you what they
Yes.
are. My
Yes.
grandma installed in me, actions speak louder than words.
Yeah. I
How many
can't agree.
times how many Democrats draping themselves in all this patriotic bull jive, but do the work to make sure everybody's included?
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more on this. I think it's really unfortunate that Republicans and conservatives have co-opted like just the symbol of the American flag, like just having the American flag. And I think a lot of that does fall on us, honestly. Like we should do a better job of this.
Yeah.
That we mention all the time that a lot of leftist language is unfortunately maybe a touch too cerebral or academic. I didn't mean cerebral. I didn't mean that in the wrong way. But we understand the colonial nature of the United States. We understand that basically American education teaches you mythology, that the United States, like not just like not even necessarily lying all the time, because sometimes what they say is true, but they just leave out any of the bad parts, like CRT, for example. CRT is just saying, hey, this is actually what happened. But people get upset saying, well, don't talk about the bad things, only talk about the good things. And so it's taken things like God Bless America, Captain America, the US flag, and made it conservative coded when it belongs to all of us. And I encourage people to keep that in mind, that you're not gonna make the movement stronger by telling people over and over how much you hate the United States. That is a bad plan. That's not going to work. People want to feel proud of where they're from. They want to look forward to something better for the future. And you're not going to galvanize a movement by dressing up like Darth Vader, and eschewing all of the things about, patriotism and all that. Unfortunately, I don't know if you agree with me on this one, Lamont, but I kind of feel the same way about church. I hate that. And I'm not going to for a second say that we should walk around with like crosses and stuff and Christ is king and no separate church and state. I would never back that or anything. But you have to realize that you need to work with most people on the left and the right are overwhelmingly religious. You're not going to get anywhere by just saying, oh, we only want non-believers there. There'll be like 10 of you, gathering for that. Doesn't mean you have to say that you believe in any of this nonsense or whatever. But you got to keep it in mind that we're about coalition building. We're not about excising people we don't have to, because no one does this alone.
Right. Exactly. Now, people can be included, especially when you're talking about religion, if you understand that you shouldn't try to govern everybody in a coalition who have different mindsets, different backgrounds. Don't try to govern them with what you believe in. You try to govern them with what's best for the betterment of everybody in the group. And what your religion says might not be the best thing for them. And so, yes, come to the cookout, please. But you ain't got to eat the pork. If you're Muslim, don't eat that pork and bean sandwich. But come and enjoy the good counsel. You know what I'm saying? You ain't got to eat that sandwich, but come on to the party. Well said, my brother. Well said. Now, let me get you back to one of mine this time. Now, which one do you want? You know what? Since you're talking about religion.
All right. Yes, that's the one I was going to pick. Male MAGA, that one?
Male MAGA molesters.
Let's go. I got to hear this one.
Ladies and gentlemen, sit back, get your popcorn. Shout out to the women at iHip News, building coalition with them too, TJ. And I want you and everybody I'm meeting to, meet each other and go on each other's podcasts, because we have to build our own echo chamber that is about truth, so that we can kind of fight some of the propaganda that's going on Fox News. TJ's channel, TikTok's in the link description. Shop Life Gang Store down there. Politics of Being Black Pod is down there. TJ will be up there. Here is a link to all the right-wing MAGA people that are in positions of power that have just got caught in one or another one, messing with, abusing, or recording themselves playing with children under the age of 5. Those that know me know I have 2 children under the age of 5, and one is a girl. Take a look at this scary shit. The ones who project usually are the ones doing.
Okay, here we have a Minnesota state trooper named Jeremy Francis Plonsky, and he has been arrested for producing a video of himself sexually abusing an infant. And I want you to notice that they tracked down his social media accounts, and he has posted a picture of the assassination attempt on Trump with the fight, proving that number one, he's MAGA. Number two, he's probably knee deep in all of this QAnon stuff. And he produced a video of himself sexually abusing an infant. Where's the Fox freak out on this? Crickets. It's nowhere. They're too busy scaring people that kids are using litter boxes in school, which is an absolute lie. But this is video evidence of MAGA doing diabolical, fucked up shit with kids. We have a Christian mega MAGA pastor named Daniel Merrick. He has pled guilty to possessing nearly 700 child sex abuse images. And in his online profile, he identifies as #mega MAGA and has a link to the Bible and all sorts of stuff. So again, he has pled guilty. Fox News is wondering what Abrego Garcia's tattoos mean. But these guys, these sex offenders, got due process. A MAGA border protection officer, Scott Rocky, has been arrested for hoarding over 4,000 images of children between the ages of 4 and 10 being sexually abused. This man is MAGA. He promotes MAGA stuff on his social media and has images of kids between the ages of 4 and 10 getting sexually abused. And MAGA has an angry white man problem that does a lot of evil shit. And it's not spoken about because, again, they believe that white people can do whatever they want with impunity, as evidenced by electing a man who was found guilty of sexual abuse in a court of law. This is Cody McCollum, a white supremacist gang member and repeat violent offender who repeatedly raped a child. The conservatives, you know, will never hear this man's name. Fox News won't mention him. Trump won't mention him. Trump officials won't do tough on crime photo ops in front of his prison cell. And he certainly won't be shipped to El Salvador for the simple fact that he's white and his ideology aligns with the Trump regime. So I just want to remind everybody that a 30-year-old gay makeup artist from Venezuela was shipped to a concentration camp in El Salvador. And all of these MAGA people do this tough talk. We're here to save children. We're worried about these sex offenders. They don't worry about it when it's inside their own house. Okay, the next one. We have a Christian chaplain trained at Republican activist Jerry Falwell's Liberty University, Douglas Cotta, has been sentenced to 6 months in prison for possession of sex abuse content featuring preschool-aged children.
Bruh, let me pose the question to you in this manner, because some of that stuff is just, it's so horrible. It's for me, it's kind of like, why have the narrative in society been pushed that the worst criminals in America are Black people? But yet when we talk about the things that create criminals, usually a lack of education and being in poverty, they always want to quickly run and say that's not the problem or that's not an issue. And we shouldn't use that as the crutch for problems. But when we see shit like this, like diabolical shit like this from these white guys, it gets buried. And then when they do get quote unquote justice, TJ, it's 6 months. That last guy is getting 6 months.
Yeah.
And I said this to you the last time we talked. What bugs me is how white collar crime can destroy a family more than someone just shooting you in the face, because that can just harm that one person. Bernie Madoff destroyed families and generations of families with the money he stole during his white collar crime shit. And usually when you get white collar crime, it's usually you pay a fine. You may go to jail for 1 or 2 years, but when you get out, you can go to the trust fund you put in the Cayman Islands. So I said all that to say to you, TJ, please talk about any one of these bums you want to talk about, but what is it going to take to shift the narrative that the majority of heinous crimes aren't just done by Black people? You've got a lot of these white projectors doing the crime, but telling somebody else it's somebody else's fault.
Yeah, it's it is kind of unfortunate, and a lot of it comes down to crime and punishment and their proximity to power, I would say, is the way to put it. And that the higher you are on the social economic status, not necessarily you as an individual, but your likelihood from being in a certain group. And this is something that we mentioned, that when people talk about systemic racism and how there are certain laws and rules and regulations these days, and honestly, in the past 60 years or so, a lot of the way society is built to punish Black people, whether purposefully or not, doesn't really matter. Like, it doesn't. Like, it just happens. It just is that way. And so when you tell people that, well, there's a lot of rules that are, laws that are racist or whatever, they will respond with, well, can you point me to a specific law that says punish Black people this way, punish white people this way? No, that's not what we mean. And an easy example that a lot of people know, was the I don't know how it is now, but the discrepancy between the punishments of crack cocaine and powder cocaine. And one of those was more likely to be used by white people. One was more likely to be used by Black people. The one more likely to be used by Black people had a much heavier sentence, although it was just cut down cocaine. It was like a weaker substance, but that was the street crime. Yeah, that was the street crime, and that was going to be punished a lot. Not only is the street crime punished at a higher degree, you're also more likely to be checked at all. That I guarantee you, there are plenty of brokers on Wall Street, right now. You could stop half of them and you would find cocaine. They are never going to get stopped. It's never going to happen. Stop and frisk does not apply to a certain class of people. That class of people is more likely to be white. But unfortunately, this stuff is it takes some thought to realize this and get to this level. And a lot of people don't put that much thought into it. And yeah, the 6 months for the possession of like child sex abuse material, that was shockingly low. I was kind of surprised to hear that. But I agree with what you said in the beginning. And this is actually what I was going to say when I picked this topic here, that yeah, these folks they attack mostly the queer community. They love attacking the queer community and say that these people are threats to our children. They're going to be predators and everything. Right. Although I can't think of many cases where a drag queen sexually assaulted a child. I can think of dozens where there were pastors or something. That happens. Like, the Catholic Church had a rather large scandal about this just a little while ago. But you don't see these people protesting the Catholic Church. Like an actual organization with billions of dollars that's 2,000 years old, that went out of its way to cover and abscond and deny child sex abuse that was actually happening. I see very few protests from these folks when it comes to those people. And it's also, last thing I want to add there, it's a lot of these folks fit into the methinks thou dost protest too much. If you ever run across anyone who cannot stop telling you how much they hate pedophiles, that person is suspicious to me, because I can't think of a group of people who are hated more than pedophiles. Like, you don't have to convince anyone that these folks are bad, that these folks are dangerous to society. So if you're going out of your way to tell me, oh, I really, really can't stand these child predators, I'm like, all right, I would have assumed that, but you telling me that makes me kind of suspect there's something going on here. Those are my thoughts on that.
And that's no different from a lot of these MAGA guys protesting how much they hate the LGBT community and gay people, because they are secretly gay themselves. They secretly go to bed wanting to know what it would feel like to have something rammed in their butt, what it would feel like to be on their knees sucking a penis. But for whatever the reason, they want to rail and say, no, I don't want it. But TJ, when you take a look at these guys physically, look at these buffoons. Look. I mean, if you were to create Walking Dead porn zombie movie,
Yeah.
These motherfuckers would be in it. Just look at, especially this one. If
Yeah.
this dude don't look creepy as hell, I mean, just if I see this face anywhere near my daughter, it's getting punched. I
Yeah.
just had to do whatever fine I got to pay. I'm gonna have to do it. To me, TJ, this was just a reminder of anytime you hear someone, as you said, trying to profess their love of God or country or whatever it might be, look at them with a side eye. This is what my grandma said. The brighter the picture, the darker the negative. And when you look at these guys, especially this, here's one, he was some kind of pastor. How the hell are you going to call yourself MAGA pastor?
Yeah. Jesus.
You know good and damn well what the MAGA movement is doing has nothing to do with religion. But there is not a single real deal religion that would do anything the MAGA movement is doing. And this is the type of stuff that scares me. This is a border protection agent. This is what really scares me. When you got people like him and state troopers, the first guy that was in the video was a state trooper, 24-year-old state trooper. Imagine how many people he's profiled and pulled over. Imagine that. Imagine that. And so, ladies and gentlemen, just know that think deeper than this narrative that all the horrible crimes are done by Black people. That is very limited thinking. Very, very limited thinking. Think about what MAGA is doing oftentimes by showing you this fire going on over here. You're paying attention to that while they are behind your back, sticking their penis in every hole and every orifice amongst every wall in America while you busy watching this. Crime goes to anybody. And oftentimes I would dare say that they do it more than us because of what TJ said. Their proximity to power allows them to, when they break a crime, usually get away with it. And then when they are convicted, their punishment is not as harsh as it is for those people who are not that close to power or have the money. And when TJ mentioned about the crack cocaine epidemic, that was a Ronald Reagan thing. The war on crack, which he said, the war on New York Black people. Because as TJ said, cocaine has been the drug of white people, especially stockbrokers and folks like that forever, and still is to this day, to be honest with you. And then another drug, if they really wanted to do something, if they really was about the safety and the sanctity of humans. You could go to any gym right now, roll up on any gym and see a dude who's 3 times my size, and I'm pretty big, and figure out who's pushing them their drugs. Every bodybuilding show in America could be zeroed out if they really was about doing the work of what's supposed to be safe to help people. Because every guy that you see running around here who's bigger than Zeus from Marvel is on drugs, illegal drugs. And they could shut that shit down tomorrow if they wanted to, but they don't. Because the majority of the people that take that shit is white guys. And even white guys who are policemen and some people who are in the military are using that shit to the tooth and nail, and they know it and they don't do anything about it. So, folks, when you hear projection, just know that that's probably what the individual is doing themselves.
Yes. I like to bring up the war on drugs issue whenever I'm once again, Lamont, Lamont's, it's funny talking about this stuff because I already know he's heard this 1,000 times and it's frustrating to say it out loud, but it's important. And that whenever conservatives can no longer come out and say Black society, like Black people in general, are struggling, financially and economically and everything because they're genetically inferior. They can't say that out loud, although there are a lot more are saying it now, but in polite society, they can't say that. So what they will do is they will pivot to, well, Black culture is worse, or Black culture is the problem. That they are, it's funny because this is actually one of the rare occasions when their language actually hasn't updated with society, because you'll still hear them saying, it's gangster rap that's making Black people commit these crimes. It's like, man, rap hasn't been gangster in like 30 years. Okay. It is no longer the same thing that it was back then. Most hip hop songs now are just about partying. Basically, you're not, the days of Eazy-E are long gone. Okay. People aren't talking about that stuff generally anymore, but even that's the case, they will pivot to the fact that, well, black people just behave worse because their culture is worse. And of course, you dig down far enough, that stops making sense because, well, why is that the case? I mean, black people, we speak the same language, we have the same religion, the same country. Why did the culture diverge so much? Was it so? But they like to point out the high percentage of black families that don't have two parents. And they'll say that according to the stats, if you're raised by one parent, generally a single mom, your odds of being in poverty are a lot higher. Your odds of being arrested are a lot higher. Your odds of pretty much everything negative in life, go significantly higher. Now, that is true. Like that is true. Like a lot of these things, it makes them pernicious that they start with something that's true and then spider web out into honestly just nonsense.
That's my point. That's it. That's my point. That's my point.
And that they immediately say that, well, here's the problem. You got these black men that are just knocking up these women and disappearing, and they're not being responsible. One thing I never hear brought up about this is the war on drugs. I never hear this mentioned, that this war on drugs, that a lot of even libertarians or conservatives will say, all right, the way we handled the war on drugs in the 70s and 80s and 90s, that was probably pretty bad. Like maybe we should have done. Well, that's good to know because you locked up millions of black men during those days who, guess what? Now they're not employable. They're certainly not employed while they're in prison, and they're not there for their family. So if you want to look at one of the major contributors to these fatherless homes you say you care so much about, how about some prison reform? How about understanding the damage caused by the war on drugs when millions of black men, prime of their lives, taken away from their homes, their families, and their communities, and how that had a damaging effect on the future generations? I don't hear anything about that. How about you?
Never. Never, because that would mean you're actually thinking about a solution to the problem that works, and they're not thinking about a solution to the problem. They're thinking about how they can continue to stoke the problem for their own prosperity and professional power. That's what they're thinking, and that's the problem here. And not only that, but then you're also getting into this other area where, even though most of what you said pertains to the black family, there's a shred of that in there that's a little religious, TJ. There's a little religious about this head of the household, the man missing, that they want white women to hear and scare them into thinking, you better not lose that white guy that's the head of your household. Because then you'll be looking like these poor black women who can't get their children done and raised properly. And I'll just have to say this. Because of that statistic, we've had a whole lot of black women who've had to step up to the plate, be mommy and daddy, and have raised a whole lot of successful young men and women. I'm one of them. And the majority of the women that are able to prosper and go through the barrier of not having that other person in the house typically are able to raise great human beings. But we put on Front Street the worst of the numbers, and white people use that to, like I said, embolden and buffer their points of, see what happens when there's no dad in the house, these damn heathens, that woman can't take care of them. And also to scare the white women into thinking that you need to give up any thought of thinking you can be a head of a household to the man. And like I said, TJ, that goes back to a little bit of indoctrination from religion.
Yeah. It's also they make a correlation causation error here a lot. And they will say that if you look at these stats, when you have a single mom and no dad and they raise kids, that statistically the kids don't do as well as as a home with a mother and a father. And they say, so the problem is single women raising kids. They can't do it. That's not actually true. Like it's not. That if you actually look at it and cut out variables and everything, it's money. That's what it comes down to. That if you have a single mom who is a millionaire, those kids will be fine, folks. Those kids are going to be fine. Guarantee you. Like, it will not matter at all that there's no dad in the household if that single mom has $1 million, which, now granted, most single moms won't have that, but that shows you it's not actually the single mom that's the problem. It's the access to to funds to feed and clothe and shelter the kids, get them involved in the community, being raised in a community that has activities for the kids, being able to for childcare, all the stuff that money can buy. Money can buy you pretty much this, all the success that you need, but they divert it away and say, women are bad. They're irresponsible. That's the problem here. That's what we got to worry about, specifically Black women. And I point this out too, that when is the last time you have ever heard conservatives say anything positive about Black women? When's the last time? Can you think of any example other than when it's like Candace Owens, spout eye, or other than like those cases or whatever, talking about your average Black woman at all? Have you ever heard them say anything kind about them? It doesn't happen. So yeah, you can tell what their motivations are.
Exactly. And like TJ just hit on what I was saying. One of the issues with those Black women. Now, TJ, I got to warn you, the worst nightmare for white guys is Black women. Because right now, Black women have the most education of any group in this country. And those Black women are the same people they've been picking on about having single homes. And a lot of those Black women have persevered and overcome that because they didn't have proximity to resources. But what they did use was the community, just like you just mentioned. They might not have had the resources, but they had a community that included people that might not even be family to help raise successful humans. I'm a product of it. My wife is a Black lady, and she's a valedictorian of her school, raised by a single parent, a woman, Black woman at that. Yeah. And so that's very scary to them. And the more they grow, the more you're going to see them fight it. They do not like Black women. And some of that, TJ, is because they want to fuck them. I'm just keeping it 100 with you. I'm just keeping it 100. Like, they try to act like they don't like them, but they don't like them because they don't kowtow the way they feel like some blonde women do. They don't just sit there and shut up. They give them pushback in their conversations. And a lot of these white dudes secretly have fetishes for Black women. And it becomes together as one bad alphabet soup for them when it comes to Black women. That has been what I've noticed about it. So you guys let us know what you guys think. Post your comments. His link is in description. Mine is in description. If you still want to get my T-shirt, all you gotta do is go to Shop Life Games, which we're doing justice for Pluto. Okay, just for Pluto in this T-shirt.
I love it. I love
God. So that TJ, you get. Go ahead. I'm sorry. My bad. Go ahead, bro. My bad.
Oh no, it was a tangent on Pluto. That is one of the few uniting like philosophies, I feel like, of anyone born before, I don't know, 1995 or something like that. We all learned that there were 9 planets. We even had that little thing for it. My very enthusiastic mother sent us 9 pizzas or whatever, so you could name all the planets and everything. And then all of a sudden, what was it, 97, 98 or something, Neil deGrasse Tyson, one of us, man, one of our own, Neil deGrasse Tyson comes out and says, actually, Pluto is too small. We are creating 2 classes of planets. We're going to have planets and dwarf planets. And for those of you who wonder why this ended up happening, was Pluto was discovered in, I think, 1938, 1939, something like that. And it wasn't one of the classical planets we've known for thousands of years. We ended up discovering Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto in the last few hundred years. And someone discovered Pluto. It's okay, there's 9 planets. But as telescopes became more and more advanced, people began looking out into the Kuiper Belt. After you leave the solar system, there's the Oort cloud and the Kuiper Belt, this giant field, of small rocky bodies. And they found other spherical objects, and they said, oh, here's another planet here. And they found 4 or 5 of them or something. One of them was bigger than Pluto. And so they said, well, if Pluto's a planet, then we got to make this a planet. And they said, we're not doing that, folks. We are cutting it off here. We're not making any of these tiny, like, moon-sized objects planets. But they said, if you're not going to name the one bigger than Pluto a planet, how can Pluto be a planet? They said, okay, fine. We're going to make a threshold. Pluto doesn't cut it. I personally believe Pluto should have been grandfathered in. Like, why not? I mean, we all know it, but it's one of those weird rallying cries. Like, that's a good idea because we're all for it. We all want Pluto to be, but it doesn't matter. Yeah. Pluto's not like a sentient body, but we support it, you know?
Yeah. And when I'm out and about, everybody, no matter if they're MAGA, whoever, they talk about that T-shirt. And as TJ said, if we wouldn't have discovered those things once you get past the Kuiper Belt and the Oort cloud, we wouldn't have had this discussion. Now,
Nope.
I'm all for. Look now, TJ. You know I'm all for the facts. I'm all for the science.
Yeah, yeah.
We actually have a satellite that has gotten to the Oort cloud. Voyager 1, ladies and gentlemen, has broken and gotten out there to the Oort cloud, and we've got a lot of data. But I'm with TJ. Grandfather the damn Pluto in, because it's in our solar system. And then when you start talking about getting outside of our solar system, then you can say the science starts saying we're going to start calling these things planets and all that. But come on, man.
Come on, exactly. This is you know what, man? This is actually, is this going to be brought up later? Maybe not, but I'll say it just now. But we were talking about the performative nature of Donald Trump and how his whole life and his entire presidency, he's been coasting on his knack for tapping into the pageantry and stagecraft associated with being a public figure. This seems like a good Trump crusade, where Trump would start saying, we need to make Pluto a planet again. And it would work. I mean, it would work. Like, if he would do it, and who would be standing against him? You'd have some fucking nerds saying, well, actually, the circumference is no. Most Americans would be all for that, and it would ingratiate themselves. Trump would ingratiate themselves more. Something that I really hate. In fact, I'll save this. Let's go to the Trump Walmart one, actually, if you want, because this actually plays into something with that there. This plays into it very well.
TJ know what he be doing, y'all. He sets stories up. He doesn't tell us he's going to do it, but he sets these things up in a way that they transition very, very well. So yes, let's go to the Walmart thing. And for those of you that follow me, you know I'm into the stocks and real estate. And we had some earnings this past week. CEO of Walmart came out and said categorically, as they start projecting what they're going to do in the upcoming quarters, they absolutely have to include the price of tariffs and that the prices will be going up. Trump did not like that. He went off, and when I give it to TJ, he gives it back to me. Y'all are going to hear me get on my soapbox about Republicans talking about socialism, Republicans talking about not wanting to or pretending to share the wealth through trickle-down economics. You're going to hear me get on that whole hypocritical soapbox after we watch this.
Refresh my memory, America. Hasn't dictator Trump been telling us for months now that other countries would eat the cost of the tariffs? Didn't he say multiple times that other countries would pay for the tariffs so that our prices didn't go up? Then why the heck this morning on Trash Social did he tell Walmart to just eat the cost of the tariffs and not raise prices? I'm confused. Here's a video of him saying this.
Tariff is a tax on a foreign country. That's the way it is, whether you like it or not. A lot of people like to say, oh, it's a tax on us. No. It's a tax on a foreign country. It's a tax on a country that's ripping us off and stealing our jobs.
But most any importer or economist will tell you the president is mistaken. Tariffs are not a tax on a foreign country.
Tariffs are not a tax on another country. Trump told us it was leading up to the election and after the election. And then today, Walmart should stop trying to blame tariffs as the reason for raising prices throughout the chain. Walmart made billions of dollars last year, far more than expected. Between Walmart and China, they should, as is said, eat the tariffs. But they don't have to eat the tariffs, because I thought you said that tariffs would be eaten by the countries that you're putting tariffs on. Can't be both ways, Trumpy. Hypocrisy. MAGA's been lied to yet again.
I'm going to give it to you, TJ, because I literally have to take a minute to get my thoughts together with this, because that type of manipulation of finances, how tariffs work, how taxes work, and then the utter hypocrisy of years we hear Republicans telling us, tighten our belts, pull ourselves by the bootstraps. We shouldn't accept help from the government. And damn it, we should not believe in socialism. And also that trickle-down economics is going to work. It is a ugly clusterfuck of all that in this one situation with Trump trying to go back and forth with Walmart over tariffs. And I'm gonna give the floor to you. Well, I gotta get my thoughts because this shit, boy, Lord.
No problem. No problem. The first thing I'll bring up is I think this must have happened last week when we didn't do a show. This happened with Amazon as well, where Amazon, and I actually don't like the way Amazon did it. I feel like it was seen kind of shady, like backroom dealy, when Amazon announced that they were going to start indicating on the prices of their goods that this is X% higher because of tariffs, because we need to make up for the cost from importing these materials. And Trump got upset about that, and then he called Jeff Bezos or whatever, and they were, so, which seems odd. It's like, why didn't you just do that? Why bother making the announcement? Oh, by the way, we're going to start doing this. They would like announce it when you do it. That's how it usually works with the businesses. But I suspect that Bezos or whatever did this thinking, hey, I'm going to do this unless you cut me some sort of deal or whatever. That just seems like bullying to me or whatever. But Trump coming out and saying, oh, actually, before I get to that, I hate what the guy did in that interview right there. I've complained to you about this before, where Trump will say, like he has for well over a year now, tariffs are not a tax on businesses. They're not a tax on people. They are a tax on foreign nations. And that's the way it is. And the guy said what pisses me off so much. Well, Trump says that tariffs are a tax on foreign nations, but most economists and most importers will tell you, no, there's no fucking most about it. Everyone, every fucking one of them. And I hear it all the time and it drives me insane. You won't find any.
It's like, why are I gotta say this. I'm sorry. You've been very respectful. Why are we, when it's the facts, TJ, when it is a fact, why are we trying to pretend like there's an alternative? Floor is yours, my brother.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly where I'm going with this. Is I am sick and tired of people dancing around reality. Like this is I blame this for why people act the way they do, because most things in life are complicated. Almost everything in life is complicated. It is a blessing when something is simple and you're fucking making it difficult for no reason. It would be like if I said that bronze is a metal that is an alloy of copper and tin, right? Or no, that's what it is. Like it's an alloy of copper and tin. But if I said, well, bronze is an alloy of copper and iron, no one is going to say, well, most metallurgists will tell you that bronze is an alloy of copper and tin. No, everyone would say that. Every fucking one of them would say it. Some things are just factually accurate. And when that's the case, don't dance around it. But to Trump, one, not admitting, hey, I was wrong about the tariff thing, that actually companies do pay it. Maybe I just don't know how it works. He's never going to say that, but he admits it when saying they're doing this to cover the cost of tariffs. Why would they? Why would the country need to eat the tariff why would the company need to eat the tariff if the country is the one paying it? But you mentioned the socialism thing and price controlling, that Donald Trump is saying, listen, it is wrong that these greedy business owners are trying to extract more wealth from common people just trying to survive. Walmart, at Trump's tweet, he said, Walmart made billions of dollars last year. They can afford to lose a few. Now, listen, that is a correct statement. That is true. Like Walmart gets billions of dollars of free money from the United States, meaning they get it from us. And there is no
socialized. They are getting socialized. See, you go ahead, brother.
They are. I'll add real quick, but yeah, they get tons of free money from you and me. Now, it's not cool that Trump raised the tariff. I disagree, right? I don't think that's a good idea. But yeah, it's not unreasonable to say, listen, Walmart, Americans can barely survive. You're already paying your workers, poverty wages to get by. How about you do the right thing? Be patriotic and make a few less dollars. You're going to be fine. Your owners and your shareholders are still going to make millions upon millions of dollars. Take this cut and do the patriotic thing. Support the American people. Trump says it, I guarantee all the MAGA folks will be like, yep, that's right. Walmart is greedy. Now, we've been saying this shit for years. And this actually why I brought this up. It ties into the Pluto thing. I firmly believe with my entire being the only way we can ever get anything good in this country is if Donald Trump supports it. That's the only way. It seems to be the only way good things are going to happen, because if Trump could say anything. What he just said there goes against all of conservative orthodoxy. It goes against everything they've been preaching my entire life, but they are all going to fall in line because Trump said it. And that's where I was going with that.
Yeah. Well, TJ cleaned it up for me, so I don't have to spill my guts. It's as simple as that. It's hypocrisy, and Trump ultimately could be a good president, because not when he does right, Democrats will highlight that he done right, even though it's going to hurt to say it. We will highlight it, because doing right means he does something that's good for the majority of the people and not a 10% special interest group. And in this situation, he's basically telling you that he didn't say what I'm about to say in terms of the income inequality and the gap, but that's what he's getting at. He wants Walmart and other companies to eat the price of the tariff. Now, why he's doing it, ladies and gentlemen, is for nefarious, selfish reasons.
Yes.
Because he's trying to get this tax bill passed, and he needs revenue to make the budget. And he wants to use, however it happens, the tariffs to help make that bill work, so that his rich buddies can get more tax breaks, so that there's no estates taxes, and so that he can pay back everybody that has invested in him and his administration to get back, which is tax breaks, more upfront money, and more back end money, which that's going to be another conversation for another day. But he is telling you that socialism is okay. That's what he just told you. He wants Walmart to socialize what you, the American people, most likely are going to have to pay for. It's okay for them. But when you, the American people, say we want some of our tax dollars to come back to us, we want some of our tax dollars to be to the benefit of the greater majority of America in terms of Medicaid, in terms of time off from work, in terms of health care, in terms of taking care of clean air and all that. Republicans get wishy-washy and say you're wrong for that. But the leader of those Republicans right now is telling you it's okay to have socialism if it's for the right people. And certainly not Walmart is the right people, because as TJ said, and as I've been complaining for years before I met TJ, corporations and rich people get the sweetest socialization money on planet Earth. And I for the life of me, don't understand how MAGA-style Republicans can't see through the weeds. They get tax breaks up front to move into a community. They get that up front. Then on the back end, they get tax breaks for like 10 years when they get into the community. So you done got money up front, then you're getting it on the back end, and those families and small businesses that have been in these communities for years don't get shit. You get told that because Walmart is here, you're going to make more money, which is the trickle-down effect. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been keeping data on that since the 60s. Trickle-down has done nothing but make the income inequality worse. 70% of all wealth in this country is held by the top 10%. Let that just sink in for a minute. 70, and this is the CBO's numbers, Congressional Budget Office, if you don't know what that means. 70% of all the wealth in this country is held by the top 10% of people. If that is not a clear indicator, we need some kind of government socialization intervention. I don't know what the hell else to tell you. The reason why that is the way it is because of this fucking runaway. Corporations get to call it socialism and use it, but you, the American people, don't. Corporations tell you to tighten your bootstraps, save, blah, 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 eat your vitamins, don't take steroids, and you'll have muscles like Hulk Hogan. Bullshit, ladies and gentlemen. Take your power back, be emboldened, and understand that the government is here because you fund it. And when you fund it, you should get the benefit of it, and not just the wealthiest people and corporations. Floor is back to you, TJ.
Yeah, it is. That is one of the more frustrating, and in a strong field of competition, this is one of the more frustrating aspects of American politics, that fairness is something that is essentially innate within human nature, not just human nature, animals too. If you there's you can watch videos on this. You can find, like, if you have two monkeys in a cage and you teach them to, do a trick, and you'll give them a treat, and they complete the task, and you give one monkey a walnut. The monkey's like, "Oh, great, thanks for the walnut." But then the monkey who did the same thing, you give that monkey a grape. The monkey that got the walnut's going to be mad. It was happy with the walnut before, but the monkey realizes, oh, that's unfair. He got a better treat than I did for the same thing. So this dates back far, where we have an innate desire for things to be just and to be fair. And so you will hear people complain. And their anger is in the wrong direction, but I get where they're coming from, where they say, wow, it's not fair that someone who makes $100 less a month than I do gets welfare and I don't get it. Like, they get food stamps or they get rental assistance. And if I made $100 less a month, I could get it. And they get mad. Now, they understand that it's unjust, but the anger's facing down and not up when it should be facing up. Because if you're mad that someone has $80 to buy milk or whatever for their kids, or a candy bar, whatever the fuck they want to buy, all right. But hold on. In fact, I think I pulled it up here, that corporations get more of this money than people could possibly imagine. This is a chart I got here of the top recipients of corporate welfare last year. Is it showing here? Oh, here we go. Yeah. So the number one is it sliding? Am I on the right page?
Yeah.
Okay. The number one is going to be Boeing with $15.5 billion in subsidies. Ford got roughly $8 billion. Amazon got $6 billion. Texas Instruments, your calculator, got $4.5 billion. Tesla, $3 billion. Walt Disney, if any company doesn't need free money, it's Walt Disney, $2.5 billion. These are places that have more money than they could possibly spend. Some of these are damn near $1 trillion industries, and your money is going to them. Why the hell would you be mad at the pittance that poor people are getting when these folks are getting free money for absolutely nothing? It is incredibly frustrating. So yeah, this thing with Trump and everything, it's driving me insane, but I feel the need to really point that out.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. I mean, you just highlighted what I was saying. I didn't pull up the data, but thank you for going and grabbing the data. You just pulled up a sheet that had, almost $100 billion in money that, imagine, I mean, folks, wrap your head around $100 billion to companies that don't
fucking need it. Yes, like
don't need it.
Oh God! And you know what? Go ahead.
And TJ pulled you the numbers, but I showed you. I explained how they get it. They get it coming, then they get it on the back end. I didn't mention the third way they get it. There's a third way they get it, TJ. You spend money on Republican candidates to lower your taxes. Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is. And what's so incredibly pernicious about this is that people we have I have to tip my cap. I have to tip my cap to American capitalists for the last 100 years. Hell of a good job with the propaganda. I mean, credit where credit's due. You guys have successfully convinced millions of people that getting free healthcare is bad for you, or why would we want something like that? And that billionaires have earned their place in society. I can't remember what you said. Yeah, you said something about how I actually can't remember the words, but what made me think of is that people really think this. Like, they will defend the honor of billionaires, and how dare you? These are hardworking individuals, and they will defend it two ways. The first, by saying they earned this wealth. They worked 10,000 times harder than I did or anybody else, so they deserve all that money. That's the first way. And the second way they defend it is by saying, I think it's what you mentioned, these people are important for society because they create jobs. Like, if billionaires didn't exist, who would build the cars? Well, we would build them, right? Like, the job would exist whether someone had $1 billion or not, but they don't think of it that way. They think these folks are benevolent. Like, they're giving you a job because they're nice people. No, they need someone to build the cars, and they're a poverty exploiter. They're going to exploit your labor for it. And what what ends up happening is that people don't understand that when you have that much money, a corporation or a person, you can hold society hostage. And that's exactly what they do. A few years ago, you mentioned Jeff Bezos in New York. He was saying, hey, I want to build an Amazon warehouse in New York. And AOC, I remember her saying something, in fact, all right, well, great, come build it. And Jeff Bezos says, I don't want to pay the taxes, though. The taxes, fuck that. I'm not paying it. And AOC said, no, you're going to build a business here. You're going to pay the taxes. And conservatives were on Bezos' side saying, wow, I can't believe you're not going to give Bezos a tax break. Don't you know all the jobs he's going to create? He's going to get people so much money for this. And it's like, okay, so you believe that billionaires should be able to hold society hostage. And by the way, let's say you give him the break. I don't know if they end up doing it or not. You give him the break. Those taxes still need to be collected, right? It's not just some random number they decide, oh, we're going to charge that. No, that number exists because they know how much money it takes to run a society. They know what it takes to pay the cops, pay the firefighters, pay the water workers, like all the stuff that needs to be done. Who's going to pay it? Jeff Bezos is not. You are. You are. And you were defending Jeff Bezos' right to do this. And yeah, they don't see it. They don't think anything past beyond the point that our lords, our betters deserve this special treatment because they're so important to society, and it's fucking gross. Sorry, I went off on that, but that was just kind of annoying to me.
No, that's the point, man. That is the point of being here. Get it out, man. That's why we're here. Get it out. When it comes to like the financial piece and how it works with business, that part just gets the fire in me gets turned on because I've lived it. I've had to deal locally with Republicans, Democrats, charities. I've had to deal with all that. And it's so frustrating that they will drop the small business person who's trying to make it if the news of, oh, Amazon's coming, or oh, Tesla's coming, or oh, BMW's coming, or oh, Boeing is coming. Oh, it's just like, oh, F you, and you've been holding up the community. You like one thread away from popping and losing your business while these MFers just come in, get money up front, on the back end, then get a tax break. It's bull job. It's straight. It's like this. The people who can afford the wealth gap, you're not making them pay for it.
Nope.
And you're squeezing the people who can't afford it. And that's a problem that should unite everybody, but we have such a highly uneducated electorate. They keep voting against their interests every single time, my brother. Every single time.
It's peasant brain shit. It is the king truly does care about us. If only we supported the king more, he would treat us better. I don't know. It's sad to see it happen because there are more of us than them, but a lot of us are, dedicated to this idea that these folks deserve their place in society. They're very hierarchical in their thinking, and upsetting that hierarchy bothers them, even when they're on the bottom part of it. It's really gross.
Please let us know what you guys think. Let us know if you've had to deal with this type of stuff coming in your community. And it would behoove me not to tell you to show up to some of your city council meetings so you can hear this bull jive in person. And let them know that you've got small business folks that could use the money. Why keep giving it to these big corporations that can afford to put a business anywhere they want to? Let us know what you think. TJ, I only got one more thing for you, and that is this grotesque stuff of Kristi Noem wanting to make a reality TV show out of the Homeland Security, bringing migrants here like this is the fucking Hunger Games or something like that. Take a look at this, man, and let me know what this is. Lord, how much.
The Department of Homeland Security is in talks with a reality TV show producer about a game show where immigrant contestants would compete for U.S. citizenship. According to the Wall Street Journal, television producer Rob Warsaw, the man behind Duck Dynasty, says he's been pitching the idea for the show as far back as the Obama administration, but the project hasn't come together. It's unclear how far along the process is, but in a statement, a Department of Homeland Security spokesperson said the proposed show has not been approved or denied. Warsaw says the show is meant to be hopeful that the contestants would be legal immigrants and that losing would not result in deportation. According to the DHS statement, the department gets hundreds of TV show pitches every year, and they all go through a thorough vetting process.
TJ, Lord have mercy. Take
I heard about this, but I didn't. The only thing I heard was the headline that there was going to be a television program where immigrants competed for U.S. citizenship. And my first thought when running across this is that this is the final form of performative sociopathy. That we really we have hit some low points with our entertainment and reality television, everything like that. But specifically in our current environment, where immigration is such a hot topic, where more than half the country is perfectly fine with mass deportation, and we see a significant portion of the population having no problem with people being thrown in airplanes and shipped to prison labor camps in El Salvador. To exploit this for fun and entertainment, I have a hard time even discussing it, because anyone who would enjoy this is not going to care that I tell them this is awful, you're a bad person. To them, they think it's great. They think they're going. Now, I don't know if the show's going to be picked up or not, but I know there is a significant population that we know who they are would enjoy something like this. I will say the least surprising aspect of this is that this comes from the producer of Duck Dynasty. I don't know if you guys remember Duck Dynasty years ago. I never watched the show, but I did see clips from it. I did see videos and interviews with the Robertson family, I think is what their name was. And it was a very Christian coded show. Not even coded, it was just Christian. It was like all the Christians really loved the show. And I remember Phil Robertson, I think, saying something to the effect of, listen, I was around during the 60s, during the Jim Crow era, and in my memory, everyone got along. I don't know when all this race stuff became a problem. I don't remember things being so bad. I wonder why that is, man. But yeah, there's you mentioned the Christian angle with MAGA and everything that these folks love. There is a cruel element when it comes to a lot of religion. People like to talk about how the God of the Old Testament was cruel and evil, but Jesus is loving and kind. I mean, kind of, yeah. Like, you don't see a whole lot with Jesus talking about hurting people on earth outside of the whole beating the people in the temple thing for selling money, telling you to cut your hand off if you sin with it. But it was Jesus who brought the doctrine of, if you don't do what I say, you will be tortured forever. You will be burned in hell for eternity. That didn't exist until Jesus got there. And that is the one part of the religion folks love. They love the torment. They love the spectacle. They love the idea of their enemies suffering. And this is a great example of that. Well, what do you think?
Oh, you hit the nail on the head. It's like there's so many different things about this. It just made my skin crawl. Basically, you're exploiting a life-altering process for entertainment. Citizenship is not a fucking game. I mean, you're trivializing somebody's struggle, TJ. You know what I'm saying? Then you're reinforcing this dumbass narrative of earn your worth. Conservatives love that shit. Earn or perform. Like prove your value type bullshit. Then you've got think about the invitation of racism, xenophobia. Conservatives eat this shit up, but you would think that some conservatives would be mad because you're basically rewarding, in some cases, illegal behavior. You would think that it should polarize conservatives, but I doubt it's going to be enough for them. The other thing that came to my mind is, bro, you're commercializing human suffering. It's like you're selling their pain. You just hit on that right there, talking about why they came to see Jesus Christ. Just to see the man suffer. And then you hit on another one that I thought about, this performative patriotism bullshit. Like feeding into this nationalistic stereotype. I think we know that this is a transactional administration. Like I said, he's 3T, not Michael Jackson's nephews, but transactional, transparent Trump. If they really wanted to do something that could work, TJ, they should consider doing a docuseries that follows real immigrants, tells their stories legally, and gives historical. You wouldn't want that either?
No, they can't
And
do that because that would humanize them. They don't want that. They don't want to show that
okay.
these are actual human beings with actual goals and aspirations and feelings no, get as far away from that as possible. I do have to wonder though,
But
what does the show entail? Like what are
we
the
don't.
challenges to win your citizenship? I wonder like what does that even look like? I don't know. They're gonna have like relay races and treasure
Oh
hunts and
no! I can tell you some of the bull jive they might do. First of all, who can speak English the best? Secondly, who can recite the Star Spangled Banner the best?
Christ, you're right. You're right.
Yes,
Oh my God,
yes.
you're right.
Who can give the 10 Commandments and who can also recite the first 5 of the Constitution of the United States? It's going to be bull jive, nationalistic bull jive shit like that is what it's going to entail.
It'll be stuff like who can name the most questionable discrepancies of the 2020 election to prove that Trump actually won? Where was Barack Obama really born? Stuff like that. It'll be a bunch of conservative propaganda too, probably. That. Oh God, I didn't think about that. Oh, that's.
I gotta put this one up here. Shout out to Tika B. Man, hell no. Not the next America's top citizen. Yeah, man.
Yeah, wow.
It's like straight up Hunger Games bull jive that this administration is doing, and I hope that they can't get this shit together before the Democrats hit a blue wave with the midterm, because this is no good for nobody. People, it's no good. It's just more profit from exploiting. Is all it is. That's what it is.
It is. It's kind of dark. And if they don't get it picked up for a TV show, I imagine some right-wing, network, some sort of a Daily Wire or some shit is going to throw a few $1 million into it, make it a documentary, maybe not a TV show. Oh God, that is awful. I guess I'm not surprised. I didn't know this was coming and I wouldn't have thought about it, but the fact that this made it past anyone, not a shock, I guess. Not a shock because we talk about this. I think every episode we talk about this. Conservatives keep having to push the envelope. They keep having to get more and more offensive. The more mainline. It's actually why Daily Wire is losing a lot of money. Is that for the most part, like Ben Shapiro at least. Ben Shapiro is
right.
pretty much your average conservative. His takes don't get into insane land quite as much. And that's why people flock to Nick Fuentes. They flock to you essentially have to be a Nazi for conservatives to bankroll you and send you lots of money. And it's going to keep getting worse and worse like this.
Which is why we are building a coalition over here of truth, progressive political partnerships, ladies and gentlemen. We are building it. There's just too much of an echo chamber of lies, bull jive, and just complete mess that has gone against the Constitution over and over again. They want you to believe this mess so they can indoctrinate you. We giving you the facts. What you do with them is your choice, but at least you can never say we didn't give you the facts. And TJ, that's all I got for this weekend, my brother. What else you got to say to the audience? What do you want them to know? What are you going to be doing on your TikTok, ladies and gentlemen? His TikTok is the shit. I don't know if y'all been over there lately, but dude be having panels. He be putting out these great 2-minuters. I mean, what you got going on,
Lamont? You're too kind. On my TikTok, I'm gonna start doing. I don't know if you saw like a lot of my older TikToks. I haven't done a lot lately, but they were educational things. Like mostly it's entertainment and education now, but I lean a lot into the education thing. I was gonna do one about, oddly enough, about one of the American Revolution. It was be a comedy one about Nathan Hale. And how Nathan Hale, I like the quotes. There are a lot of great quotes from the Revolutionary War. And like the big one is, give me liberty or give me death. Banger line. Great. There's a reason it stood the test of time. But I do love Nathan Hale, who, for those of you who don't know, he was a U.S. military officer, army officer who was captured by the Brits. And before they executed him, they asked for his last words. And his last words, you probably learned in school, were, I regret that I have but one life to give for my country. And I was thinking about this the other day, that awesome line, right? But you know what I thought about? He would have been executed by the British Army, who would have been the only ones that heard that, which meant the line was so goddamn baller. They spread the word on it. They said, we tried to execute this guy. Yeah, yes, they tried to, we executed this guy, and you won't believe what he said. So I want to do a video about that because, you know, it's entertaining and kind of funny that the only reason we know it is because it was so impressive to the Brits. So yeah, stop by Powers Taken Not Given, TikTok, YouTube, and see what you can learn something.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm inspired by all these great TikTokers. I'll be doing a show with Claire B on Thursday. I think we're going to call our show Claremont, something to that effect.
Oh, that's
young,
good. That's good.
Bright. Yeah, young,
that's
bright.
Good.
She's 25 years old, a liberal white woman who's working on her master's degree in psychology. You can only imagine the type of trouble we're going to get into. And TJ, I've thought about kind of getting into like the history that is forgotten. I've actually got a couple of videos up, and one person that I was really inspired by in history is Toussaint Louverture. You know, he was kind of
Toussaint Louverture. Oh my God! Yeah. Yes, man. Yes.
Yeah. And like I've got all the stuff edited. I just haven't put the video up yet, and I think I'm gonna get back to doing a little bit more of that. Just because I'm inspired by all you great TikTokers and the work you're doing to really try to just let's get rid of this alternative fact shit. A fact is a fact.
Yes, agree.
A fact is a fact. So, ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. Come back for that. I will be back on Monday to break down power with that panel. Then I'll be here on Thursday with Claire. And then just turn your alerts on so that you can get everything we got to offer. Until that next Sex is Hell video, me and TJ, we out.
Later, guys.
Hey, man, another banger, man.